Hello everyone, it's Christine here, and today I'm going to be showing you how I have made this lovely vintage doily bowl that can be used for all sorts of things. I think it'd be great to pour your buttons into if you're sorting through your buttons, to put your threads in that you're using for a project, just to keep them all together on the desk. It's wonderfully soft and squishy. As I'll show you in a moment, you can fold it and compact it down if you want to take it as a traveling bowl. It's padded around the outside. I was thinking you can even use the outside to put your pins into, or your needles, because it's got a sort of an outer rim on the inside, which I'll show you in a moment. But yeah, made out of a vintage round doily. It was a doily with these beautiful appliqué flowers on it that I didn't want to cut into because I just think it's such a beautiful piece of work. It also had this brown border. I wasn't like as super excited about the brown, and so by making the bowl and putting folds in place, which I'll show you in the video, it's minimized the brown and it's just maximized the flower joy. So let me just show you before I cut away to myself making the bowl. It's going to be one of those videos where this is my future self that will then throw to my past self. So what it has in the inside is a inner bowl essentially. You can see where I've done the stitching on the underside, but that's fine because that just fits into there. But I've got this beautiful fabric that I've done lots of slow stitching into, which I will show you the workings on it. I did do some further slow stitching off screen at the end, but I will come back at the end of the video and also show you the finished piece. But this basically just pops inside the doily. And sits beautifully, and then you can just throw your bits and pieces inside of it. And the rim, the inner sort of rim, keeps everything in place and gives it that wonderful structure where it sort of sits up, and then it's got these little folds, which I'll show you in the video how I make them. So now I will throw to my past self to show you the making of this, and I'll be cutting out some of the repetitive bits because I've filmed a lot more, but I'll just cut it down to be an hour. So some of the times when I'm sewing the same sort of stitches to finish a section off, I'll cut some of that out in the editing process. So I really hope you enjoy this. Thanks everyone. I've got a lovely little project for you today, and we're going to be creating, and it's a bit of an experimental design that I'm trying out for the first time, a bowl using this vintage doily or mat with these lovely appliqué flowers, using a piece of scrap fabric, using some braid and some old wool blanket. And that's all that it's got in it, and some cottons. So I think it's adaptable, and it's just going to be, I think, a lovely way to give new life to a beautiful doily that I didn't want to cut up because it's in very good condition. So let me give you a little look at it. So it's going to be a bowl that sort of has this profile. It's got some structure, but it's beautiful and soft because it is only fabrics. So it's got structure, it's going to hold its place. It's going to be a great place, I think, to put things like cottons into when I'm working at my desk and not have them kind of escape. So that's the idea. At the moment it's all just clipped together, but I will take it apart in a moment so I can show you its construction. So first of all, let me just pull out this inner bit. So this is what's going to give the structure to the outside, and I've used some lovely vintage trim. I have quite a big roll of this vintage trim, and it's a nice thickness, and I've used that and sewn it together, as I'll show you in a bit, around this core that I've made with some wool blanket by folding it over 4 times. And then I've made myself an inner circle. We'll finish sewing it up together. I just thought I'd show you each of the steps and leave each of the steps with some work to do on them. So I just cut out a blanket. I actually used a plate, just a plate like this. It's I guess a bread and butter plate. and that's what I've cut my circle out with. The size that you want for it will depend on the size of your tray or mat. Once I unfold this, I'll let you know what size mat I'm using. But I basically sort of had it all pinned together. I had a look at the bottom, and then I just made my sort of inner circle, just inset a little bit from that size. And then this is what determined the size that I need for my roll of blanket, and therefore for my braid over cover, because I want that to sit around the outside, if that makes sense. And I think we'll do some slow stitching also, because I think we'll have time into the base of this as well. And then, yeah, this I have just, and I'll show you because we'll need to put it back together, but I'll take it apart now. I had worked out how I could fold it up so that it would kind of gather in and form a bowl. I always end up playing with my finds. So this is the tray cloth complete. I don't know how Travis Fur manages to migrate its way around everywhere. I'm just grabbing my ruler. So I suppose if we go across the middle here, so that is, actually we'll go this way is probably better. That's 30 centimetres. So I guess it's about 32 centimetres across ways. It's about right, isn't it? Depends, because I guess it's got the scalloped edge. So 30, and then it might be a tiny bit more. Yeah, somewhere around that size. And then this butter plate is about 17. Oops, probably should do it that way. About, actually probably about 19 centimetres. So the first step, because I think we'll first of all sew this together, is I'll show you how, and this was all, again, just experimentation. What I am going to do is, and I've left a tiny bit more. And then the other nice thing is I wasn't as keen on the brown, like I'm not a huge brown. I can live with brown, but it's not my favourite. So by folding these pieces, it's also kind of hiding away a bit of the brown braid. So what I'm going to do is leave about that much. So it's about a fingertips width, depending on the size of your fingers, of course. So with each of them, folding them like that, and then folding this over, and so I'm just going to kind of have it tucking behind is the plan, like that, because I still want to be able to see the leaves. So I think that will do that. I'll probably just give that one a little bit more space. And again. So these quilt clips are very handy for this sort of an application, because they'll hold it in place while I do my stitching in a moment. So just folding it back. You could also fold it forward. It doesn't, as long as you do the sort of same direction all around, I think it will work fine. I've got a little tail. Let's get rid of that little tail. Another Travis piece of fur. So I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm filming this on Saturday morning. I've just come back from the dog park with Travis, and we've booked to go out for a little family lunch to a dog-friendly place up in the Dandenong Hills near us. The sky was looking a bit threatening before, but the sun's now come out beautifully, and yeah, there's only a few whitish clouds in the sky. They did say there was only a slight chance of showers, so yeah, I thought it'd be a nice little outing, and it's not too far, and there's a nice dog park that Travis likes on the way, so we can take him for a bit of a run and then have a nice little family lunch. It's a place I spotted yesterday. Actually, I was going to pick up some beautiful christening gowns. They were on Facebook Marketplace, 6 christening gowns for $10, so $10 total. I did have to check. I said, is it $10 per gown? No, $10 total. So yeah, I couldn't resist those. Right, so that's all pinned together, so I think we'll get stitching now. And I haven't totally thought through what my method will be for the stitching, and I'm actually wondering I might even use a green. I don't know. No, maybe I should use, should I use the brown or should I use a white and maybe just put the stitches a bit lower down? I think I'll go with a lighter colour. Have I got a good white near me? That's a glistening-y white. So I'm just going to have a little dig around. Got this one. It's a polyester. It's a nice strong cotton. So we'll give that a go. I should really think about these things before I start, but often I'm excited to just start. Almost looks like a little hat here, doesn't it? And originally I was just thinking, oh, do I sew it together like this and just use it as a bowl that way? But then I thought, no, I can bolster it up. I kind of like making those slightly structured but still soft fabric-y containers. I've got another one actually that I'm planning using my beautiful piece from the Fleurwoods workshop. Because I do have a thing for nice things that will be useful in my craft room as well. So I'll probably need to come over here, put a stitch in here as well. And of course my thread's going to try and sort of get caught on the clips, isn't it? But that's okay. And then I'm thinking I probably need to put a little stitch in here as well, just to get the top to close over. So just using little stitches just to kind of get everything to stay in place, and then I'll travel my thread over to here. I guess I'll continue round in this direction. So again, I can probably actually just come into the back, so I'm just picking up the back fabric, not coming through to the front. And it's good if you're doing that, have your thumb there. Obviously you don't want to stitch into your thumb, but you can much better feel where the needle is that way. And I'll travel my needle across. This was one of the linens I got at the Wonthaggi op shop, where I got a whole bundle for $3, including this really beautiful one and this gorgeous scone carrier, which I actually worked out when I showed you it after I'd washed it. I actually had it clipped the wrong way, but this is how it sits, and I just think it's going to be so lovely to keep linens and other things. And I'm thinking of putting a little hanging on it as well. So that will be another project for another day, another time. Okay, so we'll just keep going round and round, travel the needle at the back, and then get around to here. Probably should travel it a bit further over, and then just pick up a little bit of this. And then again, I'll just come through, I think, just to the back here. So not, oops, no, I have actually come through to the front. Didn't have my finger in the right place to be able to feel. Just fix that up for a moment. Back we come, out we come. Just making sure I just pick up the front, yes. Ouch. Almost stabby myself. It was so nice last night chatting as part of our stitch along with our little community. Our UK folks, they got the clocks figured out. It's always hard when the clocks change and you're looking at sort of when something's scheduled and then you might have in your head what time it's on. But they had it sorted. Sending thoughts to Paula. Probably by the time you're watching this, hopefully it will all be better, but hoping the rains haven't sort of continued and hoping that the river has gone down. And then our friends in Queensland, Deb had said 40 degree day or ridiculous heat wave for this time of year. Thankfully it's just, moderate weather here today. Much prefer the days where it's not stinking hot, and so does Travis, because he does not do well with the heat at all. Okay, so we have gone around. Let's just recheck before we continue on that our centrepiece will fit okay inside. Yep, I think that's going to be a good base, and then let's just recheck this as well. Sit this into here. I thought I felt something prickly, but I didn't think I had a needle, a pin in there. Let's just get it sort of squeezed out. Yep, no, that's gonna be really good, I think. There you go. Okay, so now let's do this first, because then we can do some nice slow stitching in the residual time on that. So I was using this thread, was I? Yes. It's a nice Orifil thread. And I was using my big old javelin of a needle. And so all I had done here was essentially take something like this, fold it over and over, and then I went along and put stitches all the way along to get my nice long sausage. And in fact, it wasn't long enough, so I had to do an additional bit, which I just joined. Let's say I was joining this together. I just did stitches all the way around the outside of it, and it's fine because it's getting bound in this. Now, if you didn't have something like this, you could equally use a piece of fabric, and probably you'd fold the one of the edges in, and then you'd roll it over, and actually let's just say the fabric was a bit smaller, that we had it trimmed down. You'd fold your edge over and then you'd bring it around. So you obviously need a bit more of a thickness, and you'd overlap your folded over edge over the other one and do it like that, and then just do some stitches right along one of the sides like we're going to do on this one. So yeah, you don't need a braid, but it's just a lovely way to use a piece of braid, and it's just going to add something extra special. You might not see it that much from the outside, but I like to make my pieces joyful through and through. I'll just put another extra knot in. Okay, and then I'm going to secrete. And so yeah, you can see along here I've just done a stitch most of the way along. It's not right to the end, but that's fine. It's going to get enclosed anyway. And then here, actually I'll just secrete my end first of all. Put my end in there, and then we'll stitch over it. What I'm doing is just coming through and just catching both sides like this. And I'm actually just doing it at each of these little points, because I found that was the easiest bit to pull my needle through. And it just is giving a really neat little finish. Almost looks like a banana when it's flopping out like that. A blanket banana. So yeah, this is an old blanket I got from an op shop. I think it must have been like a Cub Scout blanket. It had someone's name written, or maybe a school camp blanket, had someone's name written on the side. And I've just been chopping it up and particularly using it on things where I'm not going to have it sort of on display. I have a pretty blue, nice bluey greeny one. And I've got some other lovely blanket bits from Waverley Mills that I got as part of a crafters pack. But I use this one for sort of the inner of things. Because it's so useful having, wool blanket to use, like instead of, for example, batting. It's a lovely, lovely surface. And that blanket itself I also use as my felting mat. I just fold it over and felt into that. So we'll get all the way down to here. Okay. And then I might just fold this. How will I do it? I'll get rid of that little tufty bit because we don't need that. And I think I'll just fold the end under like that and then put some stitches in place, I think. Unless I do the other end that way. Maybe I'll do this end like that. That might be a smidge neater. Get that to fold under. And then I'll just catch through these pieces. Just trying to go sort of blue to blue. And then we'll work our way down here. Just giving it a good pull. That's where it's good to have a nice strong thread that you can give a pull to. And a big needle can be helpful because it's just easy to kind of get it manoeuvred through. Okay, so now we can tie off and secrete our end in. I'll do 2 knots just for surety. Or maybe even 3 knots just to be sure And then pop it in. So I'll push it through, pull it a bit tighter, and then it will just spring back into that inner section. And that's our braidy snaky bit. So yes, maybe I'll actually use this bit of, I'll sew this end together, I think, and then we can probably finish stitching up the bottom section, then stitch this on, and then we can do our slow stitching, I think. Will be a good order to work in. Let's get our 2 end pieces to join up nicely. There we go, and maybe I'll do the inside as well just to give it extra strength. Just get it to kind of behave like a circle. Definitely where the bigger needle helps as well, just in terms of being able to push through where you need to get to. So that's pretty good, I think. So I want to do a final stitch down here, maybe. It's quite thick going through that. And I might tie it off down here. Like that, and actually send that back into the fabric. Snipperoo off, and there we go. Okay, so now we just need to finish. So all I did here was, yeah, cut out my piece of the wool, and then I cut out a circle of fabric larger. As you can see, it's not exactly folded over perfectly, and then I fold the raw edge in and then fold it over on itself and then put some stitches in so we can continue to do that. See if I can use this bit of leftover white thread. I got enough of a knot, but I might just tie a knot in the fabric to start as well. My needle through and then put a knot down there. Tuck the tail in, and fold my fabric over like this. And again, you can use the little clips if you need them, but otherwise you can just work your way around, folding over and sort of holding it, and you're kind of bending it in a bit as well because it's got to sort of, yeah, gather as it goes around. And I'm just catching the blanket. I'm not going through to the other side. Not that it will matter really because we'll have the braid coming around. But the blanket's sort of thick enough that you can, yeah, do the stitches and just catch the top bit of the blanket. And try not to unthread your needle, of course. But if you're Christine, that's par for the course. I think it happens to all of us though, my buddies who I watch on YouTube. We all unthread our needles, we all get knots, and we keep going, and we keep it real. I don't tend to watch the videos where it's all polished and yeah, all produced and has sort of, yeah, clippy clappy music on it, and you don't really get to know the person behind the video. I like to see the real. Whereas I know for some people they hate all the babbling and the talking away, and I suppose that's why everyone can find something they want on YouTube. This definitely wouldn't be a video for someone that just wants to quickly see how something's made, but someone that wants to see it coming together and have a bit of stitchy chatty time. That's who I'm here for. But really I'm just doing what brings me joy. And it's lovely that some of you want to come along for the ride. Oh, and the other thing I had done before I started stitching around here that's worth telling you is I just put a tacking stitch in, which I've pulled out already, just to hold the fabric on while I did the turning so that it doesn't move. You could also use some glue or something, some Yoo-hoo glue, something I often use, but in this case I just used a tacking stitch. So now we can sew our border on. Probably doesn't matter where we put the joiny bit. And maybe we'll use the blue again, I think, because it's nice and strong, works pretty well. And I'm thinking if I do this first, then I'll kind of know what area to do my slow stitching little embellishments in. I should turn it that way, I think. So again, I'll secrete my end of my thread in here. Oops, and it pulled through. So I just do an initial stitch and another stitch over it just to make sure it's going to hold. So just kind of creating a knot with my first stitch, an intentional knot. I was also thinking on the base you could put like a doily on top of a piece of blanket. That could work nicely too if you had a doily of the right size. If you didn't want to fiddle around with the edging of the bottom piece of fabric covered blanket. Or again, if you have a beautiful piece of blanket, you could just use blanket as your inside. So lots of possibilities. So the good thing about sewing this onto this is that it will mean that once it's all done, things won't kind of escape around into the back of, or into the outside of the container. Or the sort of, yeah, the inner of the doily, if that makes sense. This almost becomes like its own little bowl. A bowl within a bowl. Okay, so I have finished sewing the interior and this is what it now looks like. You can see it's got a nice sort of substance to it. It fits in really well. It comes out really easily as well. So it's not sort of, yeah, not having to be attached into the doily, which will preserve the doily. You can see it sort of cups up a little bit and it's not 100% perfect. It's a little bit wonky, but it absolutely performs the purpose. And so now we can do some stitching into the design. So I might start with these blue flowers. I've got these nice, will I use that one or the lighter colour? I might use this blue. I think it's a nice contrast. And I might even do some French knots with this thread as well, just to kind of pick up the blue from the border also. So I'll put a knot in there. Oops, knot slid right off the thread. So I'm filming this when we're actually back from lunch. So we went to the Cork at Cook's Corner in the Dandenong Ranges and had a most delicious lunch. I had a barramundi on potato rosti with asparagus, and Alex had gnocchi with like spicy chorizo and a bit of chili, and it was, yeah, lovely. Had a little garlic Turkish bread with it, and Travis enjoyed it. He had his vegetables and he did have a little try of my barramundi. He loves fish. And they're very, very nice to us and the dogs there, so they brought over a water bowl, but we always travel with Alex's water bowl and a big bottle of water for him. But it's always nice when they're thoughtful of the pets. So what I'm doing here is just doing some strokes. I'm not going to fully paint in the flower. I'm just going to add some embellishments which will help to sort of make this top fabric cohesive to the bottom fabric, but also just add some nice slow stitch decorative detail. And I'm looking forward this arvo to a chat with my buddies, with Christy from Sew Bits Christy and Sally from Dotty B. I know Christy's around and it's still probably relatively early in the morning in the UK, so we usually hear from Sally a bit later on. So as you can see, I'm not being super precise with my stitches. I'm just adding some nice little detail. And it'll be nice because when you feel the bottom of the bowl, there will just be something interesting to touch. I think these things are almost as much tactile projects as visual projects sometimes. And I even like the different feel of the braid around the outside. Probably just do 3 markings here. Or maybe I can do another one. And it doesn't really matter how it looks on the bottom because you're not going to be seeing that because that will be inside the doily. So I'll tie it off there, and then I might go up and do the other flower while I'm at it. Probably could have done some French knots in the middle, but I might use a nice bright yellow or something again to call out the colours of the border and the piece, and in fact the colours of the flowers on the doily also. So this would definitely make its own lovely little bowl. You'd probably just be a tiny bit careful with the joining there if you were going to have this as the outside of your container. But yeah, it's a good little thought. And it's something that if you're going to a workshop or something, it compacts down really easily to pack in a bag, which is a fun idea. Something you could tip your buttons out into, even if you had beads, although the beads you'd probably have to do tighter stitching around here. They might get a bit caught. But buttons and threads and just sort of loose things you're working with, ribbons if you're doing ribbon embroidery. Could even use it as your orts jar or orts container to catch your loose threads in. But I love these Aurifil threads that I'm stitching with this. They feel so nice. Again, not sponsored by them, I just like them. They're one of the few threads that I've actually bought new. Most of my other threads are vintage, but I would happily buy more Aurifils when I see ones in a different range, in a different colour of this same weight, but for a good price. I don't generally pay full price. As well as enjoying using second-hand, I like a bargain. I don't believe our sewing and our hobbies should have to be, super expensive. And if we can repurpose and recycle, that's an added bonus for the planet. Little label. Got this fabric from the Sewing Lair, the online op shop. Again, second-hand. Kind of takes the pressure out because you can just look at it and it's kind of there, and it's a one-off. It's not like going to a fabric store where I think I'd get overwhelmed. So I kind of like buying second-hand because it's just what's in front of you, really. And all you have to ask yourself is, do I see a use for that in my future, and is it a reasonable price? So I don't tend to go to Spotlights unless I need something like a particular interfacing. I think the only time recently I've been was when I wanted to get some of the water-soluble interfacing to use for my leaf. Is it my leaf projects? Or no, that was my felted leaves. That's right. Because I also had my leaf collages. So I'm just doing a running stitch around this just to outline it, and again to attach our front fabric to our back fabric. And it does start to just give you that sort of patchworky look. Sort of like when you cantha stitch down an area and it starts to just give the fabric a bit more cohesiveness. So I feel like because the design has got dots on it as well, I feel like it's inviting me to do some French knots elsewhere in the design. Maybe even some little lazy daisy flowers, they could be nice. Not sure what I'm going to do with the big beigey flower, whether I outline it with some crochet thread, I'm not sure. Let's put final little stitch in there. Okay. I'm actually thinking maybe I'll make them a little bit more feathery like. No, I think I'll just do nice small ones so they could almost be little feathers. Probably barely see them, but I will know they're there. Oops, just managed to pick up a packet of needles with the end of my needle. That shows how far I move out my needle sometimes. Probably should actually pull the end down a bit of the thread. I prefer to have more thread rather than less, just so that I don't need to thread all the time. Because I know that can get a bit tedious on videos. Particularly when your thread and needle decides it's a non-threading day. So I like having a little design inside something like a bulb, because it kind of invites you to look inside and have a little surprise. As I say, it feels lovely to be stitching into because it's got that blanket on the base. Maybe we should do the leaves next. Usually if it does start knotting, it means it's just getting a bit of twist tension in it. And that's when you can just sort of let it hang down and take the tension out, but I think this is actually okay. There we go. Great, that's our little birdie done. Will we do our leaves? Do I want something fine? Do I want something a bit thicker? I might use my thicker. This is one of my favourite, you know, this Old Faithful green. I do love it. So I think we'll do a fly stitch, Y stitch. I know I should know, but so we come down and then we pop out. I'll do it this way because I find it a bit easier. To then pop through to the bottom of where that first stitch was, and then we come down and anchor it down. Then we do our next stitch. So you're letting it loop around your thread and then you're anchoring it down. So it's a pretty quick stitch because you're kind of getting nice coverage with few sort of movements of the needle. I think I'll tie that. Oh no, maybe I can come over here. I'll do that, or will I travel my needle? Where am I trying to get my needle to? Over to the top over there, actually. About there. There's a stem coming down there, I'll just sort of just pop it slightly different. And now that I'm here, I can pop over to the top of the other leaf that's nearby. Pop out there-ish, down to here. And then down to there. Maybe with this I'll just do a little stitch down the centre. Oops, rather than doing the fully fledged leaves. What's happened here? I have to get the knot to actually come to be where the knot is meant to be. I must have pulled it. There we go. And we're going to rethread again. Never mind. things happen. So yeah, I'll just come down and do a little vein down the centre rather than all the markings. And then let's do, maybe I need a nice bright yellow. Do I want to use some of this lovely silky yellow? Maybe. This is from the lovely Kathy. And I'm thinking I'll use that for the stamens on the pink flower. It's a very silky thread, so it can sometimes be hard. No, the knot's going to hold, which is good. And you could even add something like beads here, but I think I'll keep it just thread, given I don't want anything that's going to kind of snare on what I put in the container. Oops, come back needle. Maybe I can do sort of double stitches, pop out and then pop back in. I'm just angling my needle through so I can do a stitch in and a stitch out at the same time. So all you have to do is kind of think what angle you want your next stitch on and then angle your needle over there. I feel like I need to put one up that way, I think. Just do them as single ones down here where it's a bit more narrow. Oops. Oopsie doopsie. I wonder if I should do a few little French knots maybe. I'll do 3 wraps because it's quite a fine thread. I'll stabbed myself again. And then let's grab some pink that we can use for outlining this flower. Will I use that or will I use this pink, which is a bit thicker? I might use this one. I think I'll use this one, but then I might use that thicker one for the French knots. I can do these leaves as well actually while I'm at it. In fact, actually, I might stitch around this little badge down here in bright pink, just so there's a few little bursts of pink. It's a lovely, almost fluoro pink, this one. I could have almost made an entire video just embellishing this fabric, so I will definitely be pruning out some of the sort of repetitive when I'm making the other bits. I'll show you how I'm stitching it together, but then I won't make you watch the whole thing. go. And then let's use that on our leaves and then on our flower. And then maybe will we use that for our French knots, or maybe use a different green? I'm not sure. I don't know. I might for these leaves as well just do a little stitch down the middle so it's not too over the top. Let's take that up like that, and then like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. It's a bit quicker if you don't get your needle stuck into your outer. There we go. Yeah, that does the job, I think. These endy bits, not that it really matters. Yeah, I might come into this just with like a nice natural crochet thread, or even one of my slightly goldy crochet threads, and put some little stitches in, I think. So here I'm just following the little sort of markings broadly on the design and just putting in some extra little embellishing stitches. Probably just do it around the centre, leave the outer leaves more in the background, or the outer petals. And again, this step isn't necessary, but it is fun. And I know it will bring me joy when I use my bowl. And that's what it's all about these days, isn't it? Find the thing that gives you joy. Do more of it. Have things in your life that make you smile. Joy in the little things, joy in the simple things, joy in the handmade things, joy in the repurposed things, joy in honouring the past, joy in the friendships that we have on here and the kindness that we show each other. So much joy, so much to be grateful for. So let me send out a thank you to each and every one of you. It's a very heartfelt thank you. And sending love to those that might be doing it tough at the moment too. And lots of love out to you from all of us. Okay, what do we want to do next? Do we want to do some French knots in bright pink? Would that be fun? Use a yellow. Shall I use a yellow? No, I think I'll do some. And I'm going to be really random with these, I think. But maybe I can do some in yellow too. Just jump around a bit. Do 3 wraps, French knots, holding the thread taut while you pull it through so you get a nice tight French knot. These will be just like little rosebuds floating out in the air, little blossoms. So that one's slightly bobbly, so I'm just going to pop through and just anchor it down with another stitch through it. It's just a good thing to know if you're doing French knots. All is not usually lost. You can get it to sit nicely. It usually just happens when you're not holding your thread tight enough as you pull it through. So I should be keeping a good anchor on that to keep a good tension on it. Okay, and pop over here. Oops, no, we got it through. It was touch and go for a moment there. But really, if the knot is the worst thing you have in your day, then your day is pretty good. You've got lots to be grateful for too. So I might do my yellow dots actually over here, so I'll have some different little dotty territories, perhaps. Oops, and I've got another loopy knot, so I'm just going to pop through here where it is, pick up the loopiness with my needle. I'll actually twist it around once and then take it back to the back. Oops, nope. I didn't do that. I almost went through the wrong bit of fabric. Okay, let's just try that a second time. That's better. I'll just come down here and put another, oops, 3 wraps into the notch. Through we come. Right, so I was going to put these yellow ones over here. I'll try a single wrap and see how that looks. Yep, I think that's fine. So yeah, if you're worried about multiple wraps getting sort of ending up more loopy, choose a thicker thread and then you won't have the, oh, but you can have a problem at the back like I have created here. What have I done? Okay, that might be one we sort out after the fact, I think. Yep, I think that will be one that we just yeah, tie off the 2 ends together after the fact. Yeah, I love how this yellow is working with the outside braid border. Looks really nice. I wonder if I should just pop a few of these and merge over into that area over here. I think so, because the yellow will contrast nicely with the pink. Put one up here. Someone's car alarm's gone off in the street outside. Hopefully they come out and attend to it soon. I wonder if I should bring one down here as well. Maybe I'll bring one over here, and then the pinks and the yellows are sort of melding into each other. Yep, and then while I'm here, I might jump over and just do a nice little set of stitches in the centre, just like a little star. Again, this is just improvising with thread, not necessarily following the exact design. But that's the freedom with thread. You can kind of stitch over, embellish, add details. And I'll probably need to do that up on the other flower too so that it matches. I'll prick myself again with my needle on my finger. Nope, no blood, thankfully. They're just not gentle pricks, but they're not causing bleeding, which is good. So I feel like I might be better just to do some little stitches all the way around. But as I say, I won't make you watch the whole thing. I'll just get enough done that you can kind of see how it's going to look. So just following the outline. I need to do some more stabby stitches here because oops, I just headbutted the camera. So here is the finished piece. So off camera I have finished stitching around the flower here. I also added some stitching into the little butterfly down here, a little lazy daisy stitch, some more French knots in the pink, including up to and around here. So it's all beautifully sort of quilted down. And I just love how it has ended up. I love the fact that I can easily pull this bit out, and if I want to add some more stitching, stitching into the fabric, I can definitely do that. If I ever want to use this just as a bowl like that, I can do that. Let's make sure, no, that's just a little tail from the doily itself. And then I can very easily pop it inside, and it just forms the most delightful structure. I love the fold marks around it, and it's going to make me so happy to use it. It's just going to be super useful to be able to throw my working threads in it, or to tip a jar of buttons in if I want to go looking through those, and it's just going to make me incredibly happy, and to have given new life to it and really played up the floral design and played down the brown just makes me totally thrilled. So I really hope you like that, and I hope it gives you ideas of ways you can bring new life to vintage doilies without always having to cut into them. Obviously it's fine, but sometimes we want to preserve them in their original form. So thank you for watching, and I will chat to you soon. Bye everyone.